Welcome back. It's another edition of Lifestyle Indy. I'm Paul Boutique.
I'm Julie Patterson. Welcome.
And this time around, we're going to take you to another one of these great places. We always find stuff off the beaten path or stuff maybe you haven't seen before.
And there's not a lot of places you can just go to have tea.
Tea?
The Propoleum is a fantastic place. It's downtown. I think people drive by and forget it's there, but it's a cool place, and we're gonna take you there on the show tonight.
Okay, if tea's not enough, if you need some pasta to go with that, also, we have got a spot downtown rich in history that I got to visit called Iozza's.
Yeah, the Italian family heritage is very cool, so we'll take you there.
This sounds like an interesting story about a lady who has reinvented herself as a hat maker.
She's an artisan, an artist. She resides over in the Stutz building. Well, I don't know if she lives there, but that's where her studio is. Wait till you meet her.
In addition to all of that, there's time for wine.
Of course, always time for wine, Paul.
Yeah, a little bit with Jill Dittmeyer. She's talking to some people that have been all over Indiana.
And they have written a book about all of Indiana's wineries. So several enthusiasts, if you will, on the show tonight.
Our cup is full, so please stand by.
Yeah.
Enjoy it all here on Lifestyle Indy.
Lifestyle Indy is made possible with support from Westport Homes, dedicated to building homes for every chapter of life, with plans and details that match customer specific needs and style. Additional funding is provided by Altman, Poindexter & Wyatt attorneys, serving clients throughout Central Indiana with wills, trusts, and estates, with over 70 years of combined experience.
Hidden away downtown. We've had a couple of different.
Hidden.
Well, it won't be.
But you don't notice it.
It won't be after this segment.
The Propoleum.
Yeah, and there is a history behind it, as are so many stories that
For
are
a
kind
woman
of,
history.
Yeah.
I like that. Mel McMahon talks to the executive director of the Propoleum.
She's a lady.
Absolutely. And you're going to find out its rich history and how gorgeous it is inside.
If you ever drive around downtown, you've probably been by the building we're in millions of times. But what's really going on here? We're with Liz Ellis today to learn about the Propoleum. What a gorgeous building, Liz.
Thank you so much. The Propoleum, it's more than just an historic house here in Indianapolis. The house was built in 1890. The Propoleum is a women's group, and they moved here in 1923, but they started in 1888.
Oh, a woman's group. I thought that was just the name of the house.
No, it means gateway, and it was started by a woman whose name is Mayrite Sewell, and she was a suffragist and activist here in Indianapolis. The house is 16,000 square feet. It has 9 bedrooms and 13 bathrooms. It was built by John Schmidt, who owned a brewery here in town, again in 1890. And he lived here for about 10 years, and then another brewing family lived here. The Propoleum moved here in 1923.
So what kind of events and such do you host here?
We have a lot of our own programming, so our mission is really women's leadership, arts and culture, and the historic building. But we do rent out the space for weddings and corporate events and parties and showers. So when you come into the building, there are parlors on either side of the entryway. This is the northeast room. The Schaff daughter, Alice Schaff, was actually married in this room in front of this mirror.
And so what would this room have been used for originally?
This would have been the front parlor. It would have been where Mrs. Schmidt met with ladies. They came to visit.
There's so many little delicate features in here, and the ceiling is gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely. This front room would have been the men's smoking room, and the portraits on the ceiling, this was hand painted. We have William Shakespeare, Percy Shelley, Walt Whitman, and John Keats. This was covered with plaster and canvas, and we found it when we were doing some restorations in 1996.
My goodness.
So this is the original dining room of the home. The wood was originally a dark wood. It was the women, when they moved here, painted it light. The fresco around the top is hand painted as well. We found that in 1996. The cupboard here, this is original to the home with original glass. I would like to point out one of our very favorite features of the home is the rookwood tile fireplace. There are 3 of the fireplaces that are rookwood in the home. This is the only one that's ornamental.
Are those flamingos?
They are flamingos.
You don't notice them at first. It's a little subtle.
Yeah.
Until you get close up and really look at it.
In the entryway, you'll see we have a portrait of May Wright Sewell. May Wright Sewell started the Propylaeum Club, and she started the Indianapolis Women's Club, the Indianapolis Council of Women. She started the Indianapolis Art Association, what is Newfields today. Oh, wow. She also was instrumental in starting the National Council of Women and the International Council of Women. She was involved with Susan B. Anthony. She was a suffragist. She traveled the world.
When there weren't families living in here, what were the bedrooms used for?
From the late 1920s to the early 1970s, women that were members of the Propylaeum could live here instead of going to a nursing home.
Really?
Yes, so all of the women that were names that you would recognize from Indianapolis, the Lillies, the Vonnegut's, the Binfords, they were all members of the Propylaeum Club. In its heyday, there were over 500 women that were members. This room is our bridal suite. When we have weddings here, which we do a lot of, the bride and bridesmaids would get ready in this room. So this room, again, is the sitting room to the master bedroom, but it's where we have our women's suffrage paraphernalia. So we have pictures of women suffragists from Indiana. They're not necessarily women from the Propylaeum, because we don't really have a lot of photos from the early days of the Propylaeum, but most of the women that were members were activists. While we're walking down here, I wanted to point out to you that the door here at the back of the hallway separates the front of the house from the back of the house. So the family was up here and the staff was in the back.
Ah, yes. Oh my gosh, another huge door.
I will point out before we get to the ballroom, this room at the top of the stairs, this is the nursery. The children would have been up here with the nursemaid, and I would like to point out the nook in the back. It's a room you have to see if you come to the prop. It's everybody's favorite room.
Oh, it's so cute. It's a little playroom. This would definitely be my favorite room in the house.
Something really fun about this ballroom was that Mrs. Gates held cotillion dance classes here from the late 1920s to the early 1970s. And I'll tell you, everybody in Indianapolis that was anybody took Mrs. Gates dance and deportment classes.
My goodness. Now, Liz, when you come into this building, it's like walking back in time. Where did the furniture come from?
Well, the furniture has been donated by members of the Propylaeum, their family, and other members in the Indianapolis community.
Is any of the furniture significant?
It is. Let me show you in here. So this furniture is actually from the Claypool Hotel. It was torn down in the early 70s. It was here in downtown Indianapolis. Carol Lombard was a movie star. She was from Indianapolis. She was selling war bonds in Indiana in the 1940s. She stayed at the Claypool Hotel, flew out the next day, and was killed in an airplane accident. This furniture is from the suite of rooms she stayed in.
Clark Gable's wife.
Clark Gable's wife, absolutely.
And so how did the furniture get here?
One of our prop members actually bought it at auction and donated it to the Propylaeum.
Now, something I noticed is that nothing in this building is roped off.
Absolutely. All of the furniture is completely usable.
Really? So I can sit on this couch?
Absolutely. Have a seat. We have a carriage house out back, and when it was built, it was one of the largest carriage houses in Indianapolis. So it's definitely one of the largest ones now. It was the original children's museum in Indianapolis.
Really?
Yes, in 1935.
Wow.
Yeah, very few people know that.
There is so much to discover here at the Propylaeum. Thank you so much for taking us around today.
I'm so glad that you came. Everybody's welcome any day.
Liz, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mel.
For LifeStyle Indy, I'm Mel McMahon.
Did someone say wine?
I got your attention, didn't I?
Yes.
Have you ever been to any of the wineries in Indiana?
Yes, we have. We went to the Swiss County Wine Festival long ago down in southern Indiana. I didn't realize what a big deal it was.
There are a lot of them in the state of Indiana, and Jill Detmeyer is our local wine enthusiast. She talked to the Occults, who've written a book about Indiana wineries, and you're going to learn about it in this segment.
Well, I know wine, and Todd and his wife Becky know travel, so I was really interested to learn more about their newest book. You've traveled to Indiana wineries. It's the ultimate guide to wine in Indiana. Why did you decide to write a book about Indiana wineries?
We had visited many of the wineries in Napa Valley, and when we got back, we realized that we had been to several here in state, and we decided to visit all the rest of them, and that's how we started writing the book.
How many wineries are there in Indiana now?
I think there's now more than 90.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of traveling.
It is.
How did you decide where to start and what all to ask the wineries when you visited?
We loved doing it because we got to, of course, visit each winery. We also got to interview the winemakers and the wine owners, the winery owners, and just learn about how they made their wines. It's fascinating because a lot of the people who are here in Indiana making the wines have come from other areas of the country. You know, they're bringing their expertise to Indiana.
Because it's hard work
It's
making
hard work.
wine.
Yes, you have to know what you're doing. I don't know how to make wine, but you know, winemakers, they all have their theories and their knack for putting it together. And of course, our grapes in Indiana are unique. We tend to grow Chambourcin and Traminette. Some of the best in the world are here in Indiana of those varietals.
A red wine grape and a
Yes,
white wine grape.
yes.
I think Traminette maybe is the Indiana grape.
It is the
isn't
Indiana
it?
grape.
There are also, I know, wine trails in Indiana that kind of
Yes.
can help us guide where we want to go.
There are 8 currently, and the oldest one is the Uplands Trail.
And that was, I think, named after the geographical region of the state, perhaps.
It was, yes. And in fact, this is interesting, but one of the oldest wine regions in the United States is actually southern Indiana. Back in the late 1700s, it was the premier wine region on the Ohio River.
I say it'd be easy to get there, and the soil
Absolutely.
is probably pretty rich
Yes.
and stony, and those grapevines like to struggle
Absolutely.
to grow. Well, Oliver Winery, I know, is on the Uplands Trail, and I believe it's the oldest winery in the state.
Yes, one of the premier, one of the first ones, and there were several of the winemakers in Indiana that actually brought wine back to Indiana because it had been many decades since wine was actually be able to produce in the state.
Well, I know this is one of Oliver's, their most popular ones at their tasting room, their blueberry Moscato. It's the
delicious.
Muscat Canelli, Muscat Alexander, I believe, and the blueberry juice that's produced there. And I know a lot of people probably have been to the Oliver Winery because their tasting room is pretty well known. But what other wineries did you find that are kind of extra special that maybe we haven't stumbled upon yet?
One of the largest ones in state, in fact, I think it is the largest estate-grown wines, grapes here, is Huber in the far south. It's an enormous winery, and they have a lot of foot traffic as well, people visiting there. If you go north, Sawtech, up in the northern part of the state, is one of those that's been around for a long time, and they make some delicious wines too.
Are there any things that we should keep in mind when we go to a winery to taste?
Well, you know, if you're on a wine trail, the beauty of that is that all those wineries are working together, and so they help each other and they help people to get from place to place. And also, usually there's some gifts or a punch card, so that as you're traveling from place to place, you kind of get a feel for what that wine trail is all about.
That passport thing, I
Yes.
think they call it. Are there things that we should not do when we visit a winery?
Well, obviously, if you're visiting a lot of wineries, you don't want to sample too many wines at every place. Otherwise, you can't drive to the next place. So I always tell people it's perfectly acceptable to sample the wine. You taste it and just let somebody know that you're going to pour the wine out. But just enjoy it, and then you'll purchase your favorite ones.
And since you guys kind of got the bug when you were out in California, how would you compare your wine trail, wine tasting trips in California to what Indiana has to offer?
You know, one of the things that I learned when we came back from Napa, I actually met a winemaker here in Indiana who was traveling and visiting our wineries. And this woman told me, she said, the wonderful thing about our Indiana wineries, she said, they are all unique. You're traveling around Napa, a lot of them look the same and you're going to taste the same wines essentially. But in Indiana, you're going to get a breadth of flavors and different kinds of wines that we produce here.
And they're all included in the book. You list the grapes, you have beautiful pictures, and you also have wonderful hand drawings of maps, locators too,
Yes.
that adds that little extra personal touch, I think.
I hope people enjoy it.
Where can we find the book?
It's in most of the local bookstores and around the state, and of course Amazon has everything, so it's there too.
It's also that kind of nice, if we spill our wine on it, it's not going to ruin it that way too. I kind of like that too. It's user friendly.
It is.
But I'm thirsty. I'm thinking maybe we need to go find a wine opener. What do you think?
Let's try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
For Lifestyle Indy, I'm Jill Dittmeyer.
All right, where are we off to this time? You never know until you start watching.
Sometimes it's good to be surprised. Would you agree?
Yeah. A new person you maybe have never met before, maybe a place you've never been, here on Lifestyle Indy.
Or maybe none of the above.
We're all jazzed up here with Jody Bailey here at her hattery in downtown Indianapolis in the Stutz building, where we are getting a look at some of the magic and artistry that goes into some pretty phenomenal headpieces. Jody, I love what I'm wearing. I love what you're wearing. How did you get into this? This is a passion that you've really turned into a profession.
It is. When my mom passed away in 2003 of a brain aneurysm, they had shaved her head. And back then, I had this idea of starting a business, making hats for women experiencing hair loss.
Wow.
A year ago, I decided now is the time. I was 47 years old when I first started going to college, and I was pursuing a costume design degree. And I learned a lot about costume history and the making of costumes. This built upon my skills when in the 6th grade, my mom taught me how to sew.
Wow.
Began my teaching and sewing. So I translated these sculpture skills, these costume skills, my long-term love of sewing skills, and basically they're little sculptures.
And hats have really seen like their highlighted times throughout the ages of fashion. What is it about a hat that seems timeless to you?
Well, I think it's the attention that you get with a hat. Quite frankly, women have been wearing hats to say, here I am. This is my crowning glory. You know, we know about women with church hats. So it's my philosophy that it can help embolden you, or bold women wear hats. Yeah. That's one of my favorite taglines. Bold women wear hats.
This is bold. You've got to tell me kind of the story behind this.
I was inspired by Best Ben hats. The Mad Hatter of Chicago, he's called.
I've got to see this.
Yeah, so the underside has some architecture too. We have little clips that keeps it on your head. And my friend called me up one day and said, I was just at Goodwill and I bought you 5 bags of aliens.
Ah, that's a good friend.
Yes, so this is called Picnic Area 51. Yes, little aliens, little cupcakes, watermelon. They're having a great time.
Now, Jody, this one is an eye catcher. I've got to say it's one of my favorites that I'm seeing out. I mean, this took some time. This is some detailed work.
This one, I literally started with a wire spiral. And so one day I woke up and thought, pearls.
The person wearing the hat in the room, people want to talk to. What is it about that? Now look at that. That is gorgeous. Jody, there is a confidence that happens when you put a hat like this on. How does it feel when you put a piece of art like this on your head?
Oh, it's amazing. You know, you're the center of attention first, if you want that. It also is, there's psychological studies that bear out evidence that what we wear uplifts us. It affects our emotional and mental states, either good or bad. So if you're wearing black or, you know, slouchy clothes compared to something bright and vibrant, which is why I started the business of making hats for hair loss. An opportunity to help uplift the spirits, to make you feel better about what you're wearing.
Absolutely.
Or to be more joyful like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about that look good, feel good, and I feel good in my hat. I know you feel good. I've got more fashion to see. So Jody, thank you for having us. For now, back to you guys. I'm Amanda Clark.
If you're looking for great Italian food, you know where to find it because you went to Iozzo's, right?
Oh, delicious. And I love not only the rich sauces, the delightful desserts, but also the rich history.
Oh, the family that
this
owns
place.
this restaurant. You're going to meet Katie right now.
Look at all of those guys. Those guys all have something in common with this lady.
Yes.
Who is our guest today. You know, Polpo Teet's got to eat. And so I heard from friends of mine that the place to come is downtown, and Katie Harris is downtown. And what's your connection with all those
Sure.
guys?
Well, the gentlemen that you see there are my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my great-uncle. They were the founders and the proprietors of Iozzo's Garden of Italy when it was originally opened in 1930.
So this place is rocking. It's a place people go to celebrate special events, and then something happens.
Absolutely. So in October of 1940, my grandfather Dominic was tending bar. A couple gentlemen come into the restaurant and sit up at the bar and order a few drinks. Well, at some point during the evening, they began making passes towards my great Aunt Mary. Well, my grandfather didn't like that too much, so he kindly asked them to leave. They didn't like that too much. They began arguing with my grandpa. Well, the argument turned into a fight. The fight basically turned into an all-out brawl where they had my grandfather on the ground beating him to death. My great-grandfather, who's in the office, comes out and sees what's going on, is like, oh my God, they're gonna kill my son. So he goes back into the office and grabs the gun, comes out and shoots the guy, who at this point is on top of my grandfather, strangling him. Now the bullet passes through this gentleman and lands in my grandfather's spleen. Unfortunately, that night, the gentleman who the bullet passed through passed away. And so the police were like, well, we're charging you with murder. So they charged my grandfather and my great-grandfather with murder. So the sensational trial of Fred S. Iozzo lasted a few months, and my great-grandfather was eventually convicted, but convicted of involuntary manslaughter.
That is a crazy story.
Yeah, and part of the sentencing was the family was never able to get our tavern license back, so they were never able to reopen Iozzo's. So in 2009, with some help of family and friends, I decided let's give it a shot. So here we are serving our famous spaghetti and meatballs. My mother actually came up with this idea to serve the meatball martini. So we found these really cute little mini martini glasses, and people loved it, and we were like, well, let's do it at the restaurant.
And you make your own wine.
We do, yes. We go out to California every year and out of Paso Robles and work with a winemaker out there, Rich Hartenberger, and do a private label wine for the restaurant. So our first vintage was named after my great-grandfather, Santora. So we went out and made a Sangiovese and have it available here at the restaurant. There's a fun little story on the back about kind of honoring 100 years of our family's history in Indianapolis. What we have here, this is our Zozo shrimp.
Zozo shrimp.
Absolutely. So it's lightly breaded and flash fried and then topped in a sweet, spicy chili sauce, served over a bed of romaine lettuce, and it's one of our most popular appetizers.
I can see why.
We also have our lasagna bolognese. It's a 5-cheese vegetarian lasagna, layered up and then served half with our bolognese sauce and half with our Alfredo sauce. Now our bolognese sauce has our veal, pork, and beef, a little bit of heavy cream, some carrots, some celery, a true northern style bolognese sauce. Perfect way to end dinner at Iozzo's is to have a homemade sea salt brownie. So it's a homemade brownie topped with a little bit of Mediterranean sea salt, fresh vanilla ice cream, and we drizzle it with salted caramel and chocolate sauce. It's absolutely delicious.
Now, people that may not be familiar with downtown, kind of describe where we are right now.
Sure, no, absolutely. We're located in the Stadium Village, just in the shadows of Lucas Oil Stadium, on South Meridian Street, just about a block and a half from Shapiro's, a landmark restaurant up the street.
Katie Harris, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. You've got a great history, and you've got a great restaurant.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Iozzo's down on the just south of Indianapolis area. They make their own desserts. They make their own wine. Your life is pretty good, isn't
I
it?
love it, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us here.
Salute. Thank you for coming in. Cheers.
That's another episode. That's a show.
That is a show. It was a good show, too, I think.
I think we could top it next time, though.
Well, we can always try.
We can always try. There you
And
go.
we hope you're there with us, and then you can let us know. Sound like a deal?
Thanks for watching Lifestyle Indy. For all things Lifestyle Indy, just visit our website. That's lifestyleindy.com. It connects this TV show with the radio show and the magazine. We've got useful information for people all over central Indiana. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Pick up Lifestyle Indy magazine at most Kroger stores and libraries. Look for us all over Indy.
Listen to Lifestyle Indy Radio Saturday afternoons at 4:30 p.m. on Freedom 95. Lifestyle Indy Radio. Your life, your style.
Lifestyle Indy is made possible with support from Westport Homes, dedicated to building homes for every chapter of life, with plans and details that match customer specific needs and style. Additional funding is provided by Altman, Poindexter, and Wyatt attorneys, serving clients throughout Central Indiana with wills, trusts, and estates, with over 70 years of combined experience.